Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday show. You know, I was actually starting the show, and I looked at the clock when I hit the go live button, and it read 9:00:00. Perfectly at exactly 9 o'clock, my time at least. I'm getting good at this. We've only been doing it for what, 8 months now or 7 months? How long has the Wednesday show been on?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been keeping track.
It's been months, obviously.
It's been over a year, at least.
It's been over a year just for our Wednesday, just for the three of us, really?
Oh yeah, at least.
Holy crap!
I know, right?
Only took me a year to get somewhat competent at this. Jesus. How you doing, Terry?
I'm all right. I yawned and I cracked my jaw, and now my ear hurts, which is weird. But
How was that?
I'm fine.
How you doing, Jen?
I'm good.
I'm doing well. Hi, Keeverdam. I see you there. I'm doing well. Still sick, but plans are in place to purge this peril from our day. If everybody ever watched the movie Demolition Man. Anyway, let's say hi to you have. Let's say hi to chat roll. We noted today that chat showed up a half an hour earlier. That was pretty amazing. Keeverdam, of course, being the first person here. And then OG Costin. Scrolling. Green Badger Outdoors. Welcome. JB, hello. Lisa. How is things in the UK, Lisa? Mike R. K. Shull. Welcome. And Cynic is in chat. Hello, everybody. It's nice to be back on the main channel again. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was crazy town. Being out for 7 days, and then I kind of screwed up because I didn't tell everybody, hey, it's only 7 days. Because we've gotten 2 strikes, but 1 strike went off before we got the second strike, and people didn't know that. So they thought that we were out on the main channel for 2 weeks. So even though we were able to start broadcasting last Thursday, everybody kind of just stayed on the backup channel because they didn't know. It's kind of my responsibility to tell everybody, no, get back on the main channel again. So I did a quick little stream. It was only like a minute long that I put on the regular channel, and eventually I privated it. But it just basically let everybody know that we're back on the main channel. All the shows will be on the main channel, and that the Wednesday show would be here as normal. So I have to apologize for giving us a 7-day vacation on the MotZ channel, but that is to remind you, we do have a backup channel called MotZ and that's where we go if Susan decides to spank us for saying something she doesn't like. MotZ will probably only last until a Rumble channel comes up. And that will be our backup channel. Once we get
that makes sense.
Yeah, once we get 100 people on Rumble, I'll almost be not so careful to bop our regular channel because I'd rather be on Rumble anyway. It'd be different if we were monetizing. I can understand everybody wanting to be on YouTube because they monetize and all that kind of stuff. And that's great, even though Rumble does now have monetization. And you'll reach a bigger audience on YouTube as opposed to Rumble.
I have good news for you, Hannah. We are actually 43 followers on Rumble.
Oh, there we go.
We've gained one since last time.
I wouldn't even worry about monetization on YouTube anyway. It's not just our size. It's also that like they're weird about how they do that kind of shit. Like I look back on what they did to Sinatra Says, and I'm like, if they don't like you, it's almost legally draining on you even just to argue with them on it.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not even worth your time. So like I even said before, like with my own channel, that unless I was making a significant amount of money to make it worth it, I'm almost better off just donating it. You know, like making agreements with my chat or my fans to like set aside money for equipment. Okay. But everything else goes towards charity, you know? Like, unless I'm doing something like Sinatra had to fix his floor or something, I'll make it clear that that's what I'm using the money for. It goes to charity.
I
Keyword
think
M,
it's easy. Don't give me money.
Like,
That makes everything easier.
you know,
keyword M says in chat they need chat replay as well. Yes, but you'll notice that almost nobody from Minions ever enables chat replay except for me. And it's funny too because chat is embedded into the show. So not only do you get chat embedded in the show, but you get the replay too. But I'm the only person who does that.
It's weird. I wonder why no one else does.
It's not a default. When you go in to set up the show, you have to actually go in and say, I want chat replay to be on every time.
Oh, okay. That explains it.
Yeah, so that's why people don't do it. I don't. There's a specific set of steps to setting up the show. It's 3 pages, and it's very formatted, so it's very easy to say, I want this, 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 next page, this, next page, this, go. Pretty straightforward. But a lot of people skip a lot of things on those 3 pages. I don't know why. It's just personal preference, I guess. I can't say anything because show autonomy, but
right.
like people don't put thumbnails in, people don't put chat replay on. It's just like, why not? It only takes a second to click the box. Gotta do it. Whatever. I don't care. I can't afford to care. That's all up to them to do what they want to do. So all I can do is, why don't you do it? Please do it. You're helping us if you do it. That's all I can do. And people just ignore me. It's funny. I was having a conversation there, and the other hosts were saying, "Well, you're a founder. What you say means something." And I was like, "No, it doesn't." Every time I tell you guys to turn chat replay on or make sure you put a thumbnail in, y'all ignore me anyway. So obviously, I hold no power whatsoever, and that's fine with me. I'd rather just be a host, to be honest with you. But anyway, so we got a couple topics. Let me go over them real quick. I don't know how much we're going to get to, and I don't really feel strongly about any of these, but we had a 6-year-old shooter that was initially reported as being a white child, and then was found out later that he's a black child, that he shot a white teacher. And I thought it was pretty clever in the show notes. What I got you guys was Michael Jackson's "He's Black, He's White." Yeah. It turns out that he is a black child, and of course the entire story kind of died out pretty quick as soon as that occurred. They're still trying to hit the gun angle on it, but they're not talking about the fact that the child is black or white. Because when it first came out, he was white, and it was the biggest news ever. And now it's black. Now that he's black, it's just a gun problem. And now it's gone down in importance. People probably kind of confused about Sleepbox. Xbox software has been updated to put your Xbox to sleep when not in use, even more stringently than it used to because of climate change. And originally it was reported that the reason they were doing this is that they were going to limit how much time you're allowed to play by turning your Xbox off remotely because you're using too much electricity. That turns out to be false.
Yeah, they can go fuck themselves. It's one thing if I forgot to turn it off, I'd be okay with that because it saves electricity, on the bill and shit. But
it already has power saving. They just made it even more power saving. Before, they would just put it to sleep. Now they're turning it off.
Yeah, see, that's the part that I'm like, go fuck yourself. Like I said, the power saving, I don't have a problem with that. Like, the more you reduce in that regard, the more impressed that I am that you can do that in the first place. Yeah. But shutting off my gaming system so that you can be like, I'm trying to save. No, motherfucker, you're trying to interfere with my gaming time.
It's nanny box. And then finally, the last one is the Pelosi video. There's some updates on that. I don't think it's a big deal, but we can talk about it. So unless you guys have something else you want to chat about.
Well, I'm going to go back to the 6-year-old. First of all, I don't think this is the first time I've heard this story. I'm not saying necessarily this one. I actually think this is the second time I've heard a story like this. Because there was one, like...
It did happen 6 years ago.
Yeah, so I'm not crazy. I'm like, okay. So secondly, and I'm getting this opinion from TikTok people, which you should never do, but some of the liberals on the TikTok really honestly think that the only school shootings that happen are the ones at schools where there's white kids. And I'm like, I hate to break it to them, but those little pews at the black schools are considered school shootings too, because they're school shootings.
Yeah.
It's still a problem. Shooting kids is a problem.
Shooting is a problem in schools. There shouldn't be any shooting in schools.
Like that should be the issue, not who the color of the person doing it is. Like, stop shooting children should be the issue.
No. Only shoot white kids and you're fine. That's
Right.
the rule.
Sorry, I was watching interviews with old surviving Columbine kids, and like, I'm sorry, none of those kids were happy to be there that day. They would have been happy with it not happening.
I think that's a safe thing to say, that none of the Columbine kids were happy that they were there.
I'm sure they were happy they made it out.
Yes. Like this one kid was supposed to be paraplegic, and he was walking his way through his graduation. And I was like, why don't they tell those stories more often? Like it was a shitty thing that happened, but yeah, he made it through. And he was like, fuck, I'm not going to be a paraplegic because of these assholes. And he walked to his graduation. No, I do remember that story, but it was, it took a documentary to remind me that, yeah, it wasn't the end of the world. There are bad people on the planet. There are, in fact, bad people on the planet. Did you know, Harry? Did you know, Terry? Some people are just fucking assholes.
This is new information.
Right?
I don't know how to process this.
You're kidding me. Well, I think that there's things that we can do that we're not doing, and I don't understand why we're not doing them. I think you should be able to harden a school without making it into a prison. I think there's enough talented, creative people on the planet to figure out a way to make a school look 100% innocent and happy and joyful and pretty and still be protective at the same time.
No. You just ban school children. If you ban the kids, then there's no one for them to shoot, and the problem's solved.
It's just shooting school teachers that have no classes.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, you could put in like metal detectors and build them into the hallway so that you can't actually see the metal detector, because there's walls up in front of the metal detectors that look just like a regular hallway. There's nothing, you can't tell that it's there. You're just walking down a hallway. And then there's a turnstile at the end of the hallway. A turnstile doesn't seem like a prison. How many prisons have turnstiles? Maybe subways, but not prisons. So why not do it that way?
So one of the things that confused me, Hammer, was the fact that our classroom doors don't even lock. Like, I always kind of thought they did as a punishment. Like, if you were late, you weren't getting into the classroom unless the teacher let you.
Yeah.
But even subtly, that's still a defense. I mean, most of the doors you could kick down, at least up here. I mean, I remember the quality of those doors. I'm like, yeah, I remember kids actually kicking some of them down.
Really?
Jeez.
But it's still a barrier for a few seconds,
It's not true here, at least not that I can remember from high school and middle school. The doors here were solid oak. They were serious doors.
I mean, these are the classroom ones, not necessarily the ones getting into the building. Like the ones getting into the building.
I'm talking about the ones to the classrooms. Yeah, it's I how long has it been since I've been in school? 40 years. But if I think back far enough, maybe it's the fact that I was just a little kid, so everything seemed big and strong and tough to me. Maybe now going back, they're just pine. Who knows? But I always thought that they were, first of all, they were metal. They had a bar going across the bottom, and you had to push them. Yeah. This metal bar to get in, and all of our teachers used to stand in front of the doors holding them open, because if they close,
they're heavy.
The little kids can't get in. Yeah. So.
Yeah, we didn't necessarily have that. Like, I can say that like certain schools had heavier doors, but no, I remember doors where I was like, this is basic plywood.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't remember specifically what doors my schools had, but the fact that they don't stand out as being, solid metal or anything, I think they were just like regular wooden doors.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's one of those things that, like, in hindsight, I can explain some of them. Like, some of the schools up here, some of the older schools had add-ons added. So those were a little bit more unique because add-ons are a pain in the dick because you're dealing with cold. So they don't always, they don't always have like high quality doors. Like they're usually the coldest place in the building. Nobody really wants to be there, including the teachers. I hated those endings because you feel like you're exposed to more of the, it's basically plywood buildings. It's like they added a shack to the end of it. And they're like, hey, students, we needed more space. Go have fun in there. The doors were shit.
There are building techniques that I think would be pretty straightforward. Every classroom, when it's being built and all it is like wood, you could put metal bands, steel bands around the outside so you can't push through the wall. And that would, and then doors should be heavy doors and they should auto lock whenever classes start. So if you wanted to get in and it's before the class, you open the door and walk in. But the doors would not be propped open. You'd have, each person would have to open the door. And then when, say, the next class starts at 9 o'clock, when 9 o'clock starts and that door's closed, you're ka-dunk, and it locks automatically.
That's how I would have done it, at least in a major city. Like maybe I'm a little bit wishy-washy because Calgary is a major city, but it went from being a minor city to a major city. So I remember when it was small, and I also remember the small towns. So like small towns don't nearly have the amount of traffic. That doesn't mean that you don't have the odd weirdo that you have to watch out for, but in comparison to a city, it's numbers matter. They just unfortunately do, because the more people you have in a place, the more chances for one person to pop off.
Cannibalistic Movie says Hammer School was an old barn.
Yeah.
They didn't have barns when I was a kid. We were still living in caves. I was born in Neanderthal.
But there's certain circumstances where, I can understand upgrading the materials you're using just because the areas. If I was in a poor area, I would expect the building to be hard to get into for the children. It's not to keep them in, it's to keep assholes out. But even up here, it's simple weird things like you wouldn't think of, like homeless people wandering in. I could see somebody doing that.
Good.
Believe it or not, there's people who are desperate enough up here that I could legit see them doing that. They're not doing it to harm the kids. They're looking for shelter.
Yeah. JB says, what if a kid gets crushed by the door? Just because a door is heavy and solid doesn't mean that it has to snap shut on someone's face. I'm just saying that you can have a heavy door that's perfectly balanced, that you just push it with your finger and it closes, as long as it's correctly balanced. But it should be solid so that you can't bust through it. I remember there were certainly doors that gave you access to the outside world in my high school that if you weren't careful, they would cut you in half. But it was a high school, so it was a little bit different. You're by then you're kind of expected to know how a door works, and you can tell by pushing on it, oh, this is spring loaded, I got to be careful. But yeah, for like high school and that kind of stuff. Yeah, Keyword Amp says it could shut slowly. It doesn't have to have a lot of spring tension. As long as it's enough to close the door when it's untouched, that should be fine. I was thinking more for community purposes. Well, they're little kids. Now they're two really little kids. The left half and the right half. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to building codes, you do something different for schools. Yeah. Make them more like hospitals. Look at the doors in the hospital. They're heavy, they're big, but they don't slam shut.
But we use the schools like that. Like in emergencies, even up here, like say floods an easy one. Fires or floods. It's usually fires or floods. So if ever there's a big fire or flood and it's affected people, it's usually schools, and it's usually the elementary schools that they use first, because they're a little bit better designed than necessarily the high schools for just housing people, because they're flat most of the time.
I find
not all the time, but most of the time.
I find a lot of elementary schools have something like an all-purpose room, which is just a big open room. And that's usually where people go when there's some kind of emergency. You don't really see that in high schools. High schools will have an auditorium, but it's full of seats, so you can't like put beds down.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean,
So-
they'll still use them, but like they're kind
Yeah.
of more like they're more last on the list.
Yeah.
We have nothing else. We're using you. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you can reuse classrooms for that too, but you know, depending on the classroom. Like I've seen classrooms where, yeah, they're designed going up like an auditorium. Ours aren't though. We're pretty square.
You can't really use like I guess to some extent you can use like colleges and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But again, how do you put down 100 beds? Where are you going to put them? Student union, maybe? You know, maybe. Really, the elementary schools seem to have these big square rooms that are, I think they're designed basically to be emergency relief in intent. So that if there's ever an emergency, that's built into that school. I think that someone is smart enough to say, well, we need somewhere to go if there's a flood. Well, let's use an emergency, you know, elementary school for emergency use, that kind of deal. So maybe it's intentional. I just don't know. I'm not an architect or anything like that. So
I also point out something that JB pointed out is high schools are also built to. It's not that they're going to stop a fire; it's just they'll slow down a fire. Like they're built with such an idea that like they're spread out a little bit, so it's going to take the fire time to spread. And if it's concrete, it's going to take even more time. So you know, a fire in a school is a little bit easier to put out depending on the building. It's the old schools you got to watch out for because sometimes they're half wood and half stone.
yeah,
And the wood is ancient.
I think metal roofs are starting to make their presence known too, because they can still vent the fire without catching on fire. So I think I see a lot of schools with flat roofs now that are made out of metal instead of wood. So
I think we just need to bring back asbestos.
That, you know, and special paint.
you guys are terrible.
I mean, we already have. Okay, listen, Hammer. We now sell scented glue. I think I've mentioned this before, but it comes in apple and cherry and strawberry scented. They don't have orange yet. I'm a little surprised they haven't gotten onto orange, but they also have scented Play-Doh. I'm like, you're not supposed to encourage kids to eat it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you were saying. I was thinking somebody's going to eat that stuff.
And now it's actually got something that could actually, like, I don't know what's in the dye. I mean, it could be food friendly, but I doubt it. But just so you know, Crayola has a hot chocolate that looks like hot chocolate until you put water in it, and then it changes colors. And I'm like, that's so mean to do.
You got to wonder if companies that make kid-friendly toys, especially toys that could be eaten, if they've gotten to the point now where they've made sure that if a kid did eat something of theirs, that it would be inert. Because I remember back in the day when I had, you know, I was young enough to be using crayons. I don't think at that period in time they were considering, well, what happens if he eats one?
They do make an effort to use non-toxic components, like just as a matter of course, not for any particular. A kid might eat it. Just
You know,
anything could happen. Like if you play with a crayon and then put your fingers in your mouth, they want to make sure that's safe too. Like just
sometimes it was just a hit and miss. Like if you look at a lot of the old toys that were discontinued because they were deadly, it was kind of a hit and miss because a lot of the times it was paint, like paint on little toys, paint on little army figures, paint on dolls, that kind of stuff. Even the paint in the clothing, because a lot of color comes from a lot of deadly chemicals.
I got into an argument about that with a woman who was talking about how great makeup is. And I was like, do you realize how they make the color red?
Like
she didn't know. Do you know how they make the color red?
I know they get it from a lot of different bugs.
Crushed beetle cells or or scales, crushed beetle scales. And you're putting that on your lips.
Yeah.
It's organic.
Oh my God.
Like there's a lot of stuff that they used to use that, like, even heck, I could pick on the Brits. Queen Elizabeth.
Please do.
The redheaded Queen Elizabeth. Her makeup probably killed her. Her makeup was probably
That toxic?
like Yeah, it was so toxic, and she wore so much of it that it was caked on, and I can't remember if what else was in there, but I think it had something to do with mercury. Yeah, it was mercury poisoning. It had so much mercury in it. It's amazing what women have convinced themselves to use. And in all honesty, I found that most women in my life think I wear makeup. I don't. Like the last time I did anything was like earlier this week. I did a stream that was dinosaur related, and I told my mom about this. I bought a can of one day hair coloring just to see if it would work. And it is literally the hairspray coloring. And it reminded me of being 6 when my mom did that for me too. She's like, oh, I'm going to help you dress up as Rainbow Bright. And it was glue in my hair, and it's still glue in the hair. And I was like, okay, at least now I know. I just wanted to know if it was still glue in colorful
I don't
form.
think I could dye my hair. I'm fine with it being the color that it is.
You're blonde, right?
I am. Oh, sorry. Are you? What hair color are you, Terry?
My hair's black.
Okay.
Oh.
But my hair is getting more and more racist as I get older. Black is starting to turn white.
What
Nothing
little
wrong
hair?
with the silver fox. Nothing wrong with silver fox. It's just,
What little hair I have is almost. It's not quite Skep Tock, but it's getting more and more white. As it's about half and half right now. It's like medium gray and white is what my hair is. What little I have.
Mine's still mostly black. Like there's flecks of gray in the beard and the temples, but most of it is still black.
My beard is mostly white. Dan, you're a brunette, right?
No, I have blonde hair, but I tend to have my hair tends to darken in winter just because it's a lack of light.
Last time I saw you, you were in StreamYards before the show started, and you turned your camera on. I thought you were brunette.
Nope.
No, she's blonde. I remember.
Mm-hmm. Oh. I have a head full of highlights. It's one of those things where it's part of the reason why I won't necessarily dye my hair. Like, yeah, I used a one-day thing as a joke, and I used it on my bangs and maybe the tips of my hair, places where I could remove it and not destroy my head. But I've gone into so many hair salons, and they're like, you have like 20 different highlights, and I don't want to change my hair color because of it. I'm like, okay, well, nature was nice to me. I'll keep it. I'm getting older though, so I don't doubt some of it's turning gray. I'm ignoring it if it is, because my godmother is Scandinavian, and she when she went gray, she did that, and for like at least 10 years, you never knew that she had grays coming in, because she didn't emphasize it. She just kind of combed it in so you didn't notice it, because grays tend to look a little bit silver.
Yeah.
And if you already got light hair, like she had the blonde that was kind of more white anyway.
I don't think I could ever dye my hair. I do let it go as gray as it wants. I'm not putting that goop in my hair.
Well, for you, having dark hair kind of makes it a little bit easier. Like there's more options there, but I wouldn't bother, because
no,
I think it's bad for your hair. Like people that I've seen,
imagine so.
Like people that I know use too much of it. A, they do use too much of it, and B, there's a lot of stuff in between that you're supposed to do, because it dries out your hair. Like it can burn your hair off your head.
Yeah.
And when you have dark hair, like what are your options? Well, you're going to go dark, or you have to bleach your hair before you go another color. And
not you. You're blonde. You have your choice of anything.
No, I'm talking about Terry.
Oh yeah.
With Terry's hair, he would have everything that I've seen with that. I would go to a hairdresser, and that requires money, and that's all things that Terry wouldn't want to do.
No, I'm not that interested in.
It'll be easier the older you get.
I figure my hair's going to do what it's going to do. If it wants to be black, gray, white, whatever, it's fine.
If I had a full head of hair, I would consider it, but I'm half bald. I am curly. I have just hair on the sides and the back. I don't really see a reason.
The only time I might be tempted is if I had the Jay Leno thing where all of it is grey. It's just one big black splotch at the front. That looks pretty stupid. So I might get something done about that if that's the way but even that probably not, because who's going to see it?
Yeah, the hair color that my mom used to use was it? I mean, I don't know how toxic it was because it was 30 or 40 years ago. Who knows what kind of chemicals were in it then? But it wasn't goopy or anything. It was very much as thin as vinegar or gasoline. It was not a thick kind of goopy stuff, and it had shampoo built into it. So when she put it in, it foamed up, and then she would just leave it in there for a half an hour and then wash it out, and her hair was brown again. So I can't imagine it's gotten more difficult.
Mm.
My girlfriend does not do anything with her hair. I even told her, because her hair is kind of like a dirty blonde. And I told her, hey, you can go brunette if you wanted to, because I have a thing for brunettes. I think everybody knows that. And she says, no, my hair color's fine. I'm like, I'm not going to push this. What am I? No, you must change it. No, that's not going to happen.
Just swap the hair products that she uses. Just accidentally put one that's gonna discolor her hair.
Yeah. I mean, she knows my preference, but the thing about her hair is like who was the dark-haired, long-haired angel from Charlie's Angels? What was her name? Not Farrah Fawcett, not Sabrina, whatever her name was. Jacqueline Smith? Was that her name?
That sounds right.
Yeah, Jacqueline Smith.
My brain went to Jacqueline Glenn. It's like, no, that's the YouTuber.
Yeah. Jacqueline Smith had that long, luxurious, thick hair that was shiny, and very bouncy, like the perfect hair. Like if you were going to be a hair model, she had that. That's what my girlfriend has, but it's like a kind of a dirty blondish. So considering how beautiful and healthy it looks, I can't say color it, because that means you're potentially damaging it, and it's not worth it. I'd rather have her hair look so pretty and bouncy and shiny and alive and be a color I don't prefer than have it look straw and flat and awful, but be the color I prefer. Nah, just leave it the way it is. That's fine. I don't care. The great thing is she doesn't have like her hair in her body, because her hair is light on her head. Her hair in her body, you just can't even see it. It's so, thin and light that she looks like she doesn't have any hair on her body at all. It's amazing. I've always dated brown hair girls, so no matter what you do, if you're a brown hair girl, you're going to have a certain amount of visible hair. Who gets the mustache? It's always the brown hair girls that get the mustache.
Of course.
So she's like the first girl I dated a girl for a year who was a bottle blonde back when I was in high school. But yeah, she wasn't a real blonde. But my current girlfriend is the first real blonde, because I'm not really big on blonde hair.
Okay. Keith has the answer. Just tell her to get a wig.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what
you must wear this at all times.
Yeah. That's what Sydney does when she's doing her videos and she's trying to mimic a feminist. She got this huge pink wig that she only partially puts on her head, so you can still see her hair underneath. She doesn't have any wigs. Maybe I'll try that. I'll say, well, if you don't want to go brown.
No. What you do is happy birthday.
Yeah. Here's something I thought would spice things up between us.
Where are you going?
Yeah, where are you going? I was going to say, I can only imagine the look I would get from that. Holy crap. She's pretty easygoing person, but I think that would push a button. I'm not going to.
I think that would be a justified response, to be honest.
Yeah, probably right. Do you own a wig, Jen?
I have before, but I lost it ages ago because I had my apartment flood in 2005.
What was it for? Just to try a different color kind of thing, or?
It was more of just to try a different hairstyle to begin with, and I was kind of into. I was a little bit into different types of role playing at the time. So, like, Scribe was into like Vampire the Masquerade. I had a group of friends who when we're into similar things. So
Yeah.
for something like that, I got a pair of the fake theater fangs, and then I got a wig for it. And the wig I couldn't keep on my head because I have a lot of hair. So it's not that it doesn't fit. It's just you get so warm that you just feel, it just felt gross.
It always seems
You
like
know?
women with short hair are the ones that have the wigs.
Yeah, like you can
That
you
would
can
make
get
sense.
you can get hat socks that keep your hair more like confined, but I don't like overheating. If I overheat even just a little bit, I just dissolve and become gross.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, then there's people like Shu who don't have a choice. They pretty much have to wear a wig.
Well, she does, like, she pulls her own hair out because she's got that condition, from what
Right.
I remember.
Right. I don't know if she still actively does that or not, but I think she's damaged her scalp so that certain areas of hair just aren't ever going to grow back in. That's why she wears a wig.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But she actually looks pretty good. I mean, if somebody didn't tell me that she was doing that, I would never have known.
No, I thought she was still into the scene because she still pulls scene girl hair. Which, if you don't understand what that means, don't worry about it.
I don't understand what that means.
I do think Shu is quite pretty with her wig. So
She's a pretty girl.
I think it makes sense to keep it. I mean, I haven't seen her without the wig, so I don't want to. I don't want to see what her natural hair looks like if it's going to shatter the illusion. I'm quite happy to pretend that that's what her hair looks like.
Yeah, I still prefer Boxy. I always thought Boxy was cuter.
Keep has the name of the condition, trichotillomania.
Wow, say that 3 times fast.
Yeah.
Oh, can't imagine. I can't stand. I mean, there are certainly girls who are like, you're in bed and she's like, pull my hair. Like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think she's going to be asking you to do that.
Trichotillomania. Wow.
No, that's my job. I pull my hair, not you.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that of all the women I know I've seen wigs on, she looks. I mean, of course, she's got like bangs because she has to. I've never seen her not have bangs, but it seems like her hairstyle kind of fits her face and fits her personality. So it seems natural. And if I didn't know that she was doing this, I wouldn't have known that she was wearing a wig.
No, me neither.
She is like 5'6". She's kind of medium. She's not terribly tall, but she's not terribly short either.
I wouldn't have even been able to guess. I would have just probably said whatever the average is, she's probably there. I don't know. She just doesn't seem.
Well, she looks kind of short next to her old boyfriend, but I
Skeptic.
found out, yeah, but he was a really tall guy, so she's going to look a little short next to him. But I saw a picture of her next to a door frame, so it kind of gave me an idea of how tall she is. She's about 5'6", 5'7", right in there. But.
Yeah, I've never given it any thought, to be honest. I've never questioned her height.
So we covered the shooter, and we kind of covered the sleep box, the Xbox climate aware Xbox. The big deal is that it got misreported at the beginning that it would, if you're playing it and you used up your amount of carbon for the day, it would shut off.
Well, fuck that.
That's what and people were calling it the nanny box.
Yeah, well, if that was true, that would definitely be.
Yeah, that turned out to be a false report, and a lot of conservatives reacted to it, and then it turned out to be false. And then the libs got on the conservatives for yelling about it.
Yeah.
So that's the whole back and forth.
Republicans pounce kind of thing.
Yeah. The only thing we didn't cover is the Pelosi video, and there's not really that much there about that. Basically, a judge has ruled that the Pelosi video has to be released. That's the news. So
the other news is, I don't know if you've heard about this, but the Daily Wire offered Stephen Crowder a very
Yeah.
very bad contract, and that is apparently the thing that everyone wants to talk about on Twitter. So
Wasn't sure if we should talk about that because it's it's been in the news for a while.
yeah, I mean,
So
I'm just bringing it up because that's still like people won't shut up about it.
I would love to talk about it, but I don't know if I'm going to bring anything new to the conversation, or if you guys have anything
No.
new that you want to bring to it. And I don't really know if our chat really wants to hear more about it. They're probably fucking. The Assassin of the Gray is here. Welcome, sir. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to talk about it because I seem to have. There's a lot of people defending Crowder, and I don't see any defense for him at all. I'm very much Team Daily Wire. And there's also been some false reporting because Ben is kind of the popular face of the Daily Wire. People keep saying Ben Shapiro said this and Ben Shapiro did that and Ben Shapiro did this. Ben Shapiro is just a talent in this situation. He's just one of the talent. He's no more involved than Matt Walsh or Clavin or
well, he does own the company, so
Boring is the CEO.
right. I think Ben co-founded the company, so he's like pretty high up in the
he's
influence.
the what was it, the emeritus, what's the phrase,
the editor-in-chief or the
editor-in-chief, there's some
emeritus
or something like that. So he holds the creative part of it, but the business part about the and granted he's co-owner, but the business part is Jeremy Boring's job. So everyone keeps saying Ben Shapiro said this and Ben Shapiro said that. I said, yeah, but he's not the guy involved here. I understand he owns part of it, but this is all Boring. This is all Jeremy Boring. This really has nothing to do with Ben, except that Ben's co-owner. But I that's the only thing that kind of irked me about this. That and the fact that I don't see where Daily Wire did anything wrong. Even with what Lauren Chen said, I still don't get it.
Daily Wire didn't do anything wrong, but I think the conflict is because Steven Crowder, like, he views abiding by YouTube's rules as conceding, and he's like
for big tech.
Yeah. And his problem is that his pay would be contingent on staying platformed on YouTube and Facebook and all the big platforms. When he feels that would handcuff him and limit his creativity because that he would no longer be able to make the same kind of show that he wants to make if he was held to those conditions. I think Daily Wire did nothing wrong, but I think the problem is Steven Crowder went in with a different mindset to the Daily Wire. They coming at it from totally different perspectives.
I kind of agree with Terry on this one. I think it's one of those ones where if they'd walked away professionally, it would have been a nothing burger.
Yeah,
but absolutely. I keep pointing out the one factor everyone forgets about Crowder. He's part French, which means he's automatically going to pick the most dramatic route he can pick.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mr. Adams says in chat, you can make a case Ben is the face of DW, and you're right. He is by far the most popular person on that team, and he is co-owner. So he is a prominent person on that team. So yeah, you're right. In that respect, you're absolutely right. The thing that got me about this was the person who sent over the term sheet, not the contract. The person who sent over the term sheet was a lawyer at the behest of Boring. And who replied to this? Boring. It's always been him taking care of this because it's business. He's the CEO. That's all business stuff.
Yeah.
The deal here is not, there's two things that happen with Crowder that bother me. One, he's not being very professional, because if somebody gave me a term sheet that was way out of line, I thought there's no room to match up here, I wouldn't take it personally. Business is business. Personal is personal. They're two different things. And I would just say, oh, well, this is crap. Grumble it up and try to make a 3-pointer from across the room.
Basically what Lauren Chen did when she got her offer. She was just like, I'm not going to accept this. And then she just moved on with her life.
Yeah, she just said, sorry, I'm not interested. Thank you. Have a great day. That's what he should have done. But
Right.
she's right in the respect that Crowder mixes business and professional together.
Yes.
She knows this of him
business and
because,
personal, you mean.
right. Yeah, I'm sorry. Business and personal. He mixes them as they're one thing to him. And she knows this because she worked with him at the Blaze. She knows how he works. The funny thing is, Crowder's upset that he got lowballed, yet he had lowballed Lauren Chen.
Yeah.
He said so. So it's just like, dude, you're upset about something you're doing to other people. That's hypocritical. I don't have time for that.
Well, I think it was he expected his friendship with Jeremy Boring to carry some weight in the business world. Like as you said, to Stephen Crowder, they're the same world. There is no separation of business and personal. So he's like, no, Jeremy's my friend. He's going to send me a decent contract, not the boilerplate that everyone gets. And then when he got we're out to make as much money as we can for the Daily Wire. It is up to you to negotiate better for yourself.
Yeah.
Get a good lawyer. He was personally offended, and
throughout
he lashed out by recording a phone call with Jeremy Boring, which I don't approve of.
Yeah. My entire life, I have worked through headhunters. I've never personally put my resume into a company. I've always had headhunters work for me. So everything is under contract. When you work for a company, you sit down, you fill out paperwork, you fill out a contract saying, I will be here on time, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And I've had people offer me contracts that were just like, no, I'm not, no.
Yeah.
And my response is, no, thank you. That was very nice. Have a great day. That's the professional thing to do. I'm sorry. It just is. It's not personal. You can't take these things personal. Can you imagine being an actor and taking turn downs for roles, taking that personally?
Yeah, exactly.
You blow your fucking brains out because you get turned down all the time. So I mean, you can't take contracts personally. You just can't do it.
But I think it was Monkey was pointing out, this is why you don't do business with friends.
Right.
Like, it's just a terrible idea. People expect non-business-like behavior because they're dealing with a friend. Right. And then when they get business behavior, there's hurt feelings. And
see, I wouldn't do that. If Monkey came to me with a contract, I wouldn't be upset if he lowballed me. I would say, no, Monkey, I get her, Monkey, you're crazy. I'm not doing this. No hard feelings.
You've also got a better grip on reality. There's a lot of people who would be like, no, like this is my best friend. He's not going to do that, and then like get hurt when people treat it like business. And if they don't treat it like business, then the business won't succeed. So rock in a hard place.
Well, that's part of the reason why I felt like he was being a little bit hypocritical in the first place. Like, I get wanting to join in with your friends when you're doing a big project and stuff. But if Crowder could have held his own from the get-go, I think he should have gone that route in the first place, because everywhere that he crops up when it comes to his own personal history, he really does like having control over his own show. He always has. He is a little bit of a control freak in that regard. And that's sometimes okay. Like, if his main group of people are still the same people. Like, have some people changed? Yes. And I still question why, but I don't think those were personal reasons either. But he does always show that he really likes to have control over everything. And I'm like, Crowder, you were going in this revolving circle of having the same problem, because everywhere you go, people start telling you what to do and you don't like it. So just go your own route in the first place instead of causing, like, that's why I think this is just drama. I don't think he wanted, like, he might have looked at it with the intentions of maybe joining something, because big platforms, it does add to your own stuff. It does mean you don't have to take care of as much of it on your own end. So you are getting a benefit out of it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, though, with him, if he's generating as much money as he says he is, then just go that own route. Yeah. Build up on your Rumble. Like, keep YouTube until you can't, but just build up on Rumble.
I think one of Crowder's problems is he doesn't have hard figures for how much of an audience he could actually bring. because all of the subscriptions were to The Blaze, not to Steven Crowder specifically.
Right.
So, like, it's hard to say, okay, here's all the people subscribed to The Blaze. How many are here specifically because of Steven Crowder, as opposed to people who happen to watch Steven Crowder but joined The Blaze for some other reason? Like, the hard figures are going to be difficult to pin down.
It's like, let me put it to you both this way. If he got a Spotify, he would take Spotify. He would. But Spotify would still be breathing down his neck, just the same as they do Joe Rogan. But I could see him doing that.
Do you think Spotify is breathing down the neck of Joe Rogan?
For a little bit there, I do believe that I remember Joe saying that they tried to be like, hey, can you tone it down? Because of Neil Young or something like that, the list of D-list people that most people don't know exist anymore because they're kind of old. They're still good music makers. They're just old. Most 20-year-olds are like, who are you? And wearing their T-shirt, not knowing who they are.
Yeah, Neil Young trying to get any like influence over current music is laughable.
Like, I still like his music. I stand by that. Dude's a piece of shit, though.
Didn't last long. He was only off for like a month, right?
Yeah. I can't even think of a Neil Young song. Like that's how little I think of him. Is like I'm pretty sure he was in Buffalo Springfield. So there's For What It's Worth. But other than that, I can't think of a Neil Young song.
He was an add-on to Crosby, Stills, Nash, right?
Yeah, he was.
He was Crosby, Stills, Nash, and then eventually, and Young.
And occasionally Young.
Yeah. That's the only claim to fame. I don't know his music at all. I know he has classic rock music, and there's no doubt in my mind that if someone played his hit, I'd be like, oh, I know that song. But I just don't know what it is, you know?
No.
It's the same thing for a lot of classic rock music. I hear it and I think, that's a really cool classic rock song. I wonder who makes it. It's like, oh, Jimi Hendrix. Okay.
One of the things I do know about Neil Young, just because he's still in the age group of my dad, and another thing about Neil Young is, I'm sorry, America, we have to take the heat on that one. He's from the same province as William Shatner.
Hey, Shatner's awesome.
But he's from the same province as William Shatner. It's just he's the hippie version of a William Shatner.
Hey, Shatner's cool.
Shatner makes up for Neil Young all the time. I'm so grateful we have him. But Neil Young, in my dad's words, has always been a bitter hippie. Not just a dirty hippie, a bitter hippie.
Canada doesn't really pull their punches. They either give us somebody cool like Shatner or somebody like Bieber. It's like there's no in between.
No.
What the hell's wrong with you guys?
Well, that's how we are. There is no in between.
I like Shatner because I had to write the questions for a trivia night, and one of them had to be like a "Who am I?" and I picked William Shatner for the "Who am I?"
If you only knew.
It was really funny because I said something like, "In 1954, I played Ranger Bill on the Canadian Howdy Doody show."
Oh,
and then
you picked all the obscure facts about him?
Well, that's how it had to. Like, you had to start obscure and then get more and more obvious as it progressed.
I get it.
But like when I said that, this like 20-year-old girl was like, "I wasn't even born when that happened." It was like none of us were. Like, what are you talking about?
He's so famous, for Star Trek, but he's there's a whole other group of people who like him from T.J. Hooker.
Yeah, true.
So there's
and his musical career.
Yeah, it's amazing that he does have like 4 or 5 albums out. Like, wow.
Even stuff from his later years, like the last couple of years, he's been still doing stuff. Like he does a lot of the space exploration. He did the It reminded me of a weird science kind of thing. What you think about that?
But I unironically think Shatner's version of Rocket Man is better than Elton John's.
Yeah.
Like, not even joking. It is better.
He is older than he looks, too. He's like late 80s, and he looks like he's still in his 60s. It's pretty amazing. He outlasted Nimoy. He outlasted DeForest Kelly. You know,
I think he's going to outlast the other two too. And I'm not saying that to be mean to George Takei, because George Takei is up his own ass. But I don't. He just. I don't know. Sometimes when I look at an old person and compare them, I'm like, it's always going to be a hit and miss because you never know somebody's health. But George is so bitter.
Who's left? George is left. Nichelle is gone, right?
Yeah, I can't remember the last guy's name, and I feel terrible every time because he was
Chekhov.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember his name off the top of my head either. I'm a big Trekkie and I can't remember his name. I don't even. I think he's still alive. I don't remember his name though. The Chattel no. But yeah, I think because Doohan's gone, Scotty's gone. So the only people who are really left are the two people running the ship. And that was Chekhov and Sulu. Everybody else is done.
Yeah, I'm not a Takei fan. I don't like that person very much.
He screams of so much narcissism. It's just sad.
Walter
It's
Koenig.
just sad.
That's his name. Assassin's hot in chat. He says William Shatner is more qualified to talk about space than Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's true. He's actually been there. Neil has not. So you would think that the one person who should have been up in space by now would have been Neil, because he is for as much as I don't like him and his attitude and his tendency to ruin everything, he is the guy who communicates science to the vast majority of people. He does play that role.
What is it with people named Neil? There's like Neil Young, Neil deGrasse Tyson. They're both obnoxious.
It's the tendency to end up buying into politics that ends up souring everything, because I don't doubt he does know his own shit, but because he's willing to be swayed by politics, and I don't know if that's followed by money. I don't. I just do know that a lot of people who end up being celebrities, and it doesn't matter if you're a scientist, apparently, you're willing to take money just to sell something.
Right.
You know, and that puts everything that you've done into doubt. It doesn't even matter if it's my side. Like I do put you will go into a special shelf. It doesn't mean what you're doing is necessarily wrong. There might even be some parts to your pitch that's true, but because you're selling it, you've got an angle that is not entirely in my benefit because you're getting something out of it.
Just a heads up, we are approaching the hour mark. If Jen is concerned about,
I'm not, but you know, sometimes Hammer's not feeling good. I have tomorrow off. It was kind of
okay, cool.
It's inventory, and they were like, we've got an order that we don't need to count for a day. If we don't have to count it, then we'll just save it for a day, and then you guys can come in that day. So that's what we're doing.
Fair enough.
And I agree with that. I'm like, why would you open up a box only to count the shit inside? That seems stupid. I was doing a lot of that this week. It was both slow, so you're doing more work to try to make up for the fact that it's slow, and two, you're trying to do the work in such a way that it makes it easier for people to count. And then we had management that were like, we're going to over order on things. And I'm like, why is it the stuff that you have to count lots of? and then I learned that they have a tendency to use rubber bands to keep things like packaged candy together. I'm like, that makes sense. They don't know how to use rubber bands. I'm like, who the hell are you hiring to do this? They don't know. Okay. All right.
I think KVDM has the right idea.
Yeah, and before
you know who gets here.
Just before he gets here.
Jack goes out to get here, and it turns out that the show's already over. He's getting a little disappointed and everything. No, we'll end on time. I really don't have anything more to go over. I remember doing inventory when I was a young man working at Egghead Software. Do you guys remember Egghead Software? Or is that before your time?
It's not so much before my time, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's something I just didn't hear about.
What's the place that sells games in brick and mortar stores? Game Shop? It's either GameStop. Yeah, we used to have EB Games too, but it's all GameStop now. Egghead was before, did the same thing, but it was before GameStop.
Okay. They probably just never came down to Australia.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard of them.
Yeah. They were all over the States. I don't know if they made it to Canada or not, but it was, if you wanted to get software, you went to Newegg or Egghead Software. I always get them confused with Newegg, but Egghead Software, I worked there for about 3 years. That's where I met my best friend. And, yeah, doing stock stuff and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I remember those days, but don't have to do that anymore. Thank God. It was the worst part of the job. The fun part of the job was actually selling stuff to people, not because it was fun selling, but you could kind of play games with the other people who were working in the store. If you had people that had fun working with, we had our own little language and we could talk about things in front of people that they didn't understand what we're talking about because
that's funny.
you know, like if there was a pretty girl in the store, one guy would walk up to the other guy and say, "You see the candy?" And the other guy would say, "No, where's the candy?" He says, "There's candy in the back of the store." "Oh, okay." And we'll walk away. And the guys, "You guys like candy?" It's like, we're talking about we're talking about a cute girl that's in the store now. We're not actually talking about candy. We had our own little language about stuff like that. And we would play games like we would have a person working with a group, and like there'd be like 3 groups with 3 salesmen. And the 3 salesmen would rotate between the groups. We'd all look at each other and nod our heads, and we would all walk from the group we were working with to the other group, and we just kind of like rotate and take over each other's group. And the look of confusion on the group, on the individual people who were working with are like, "Wait a minute, where's the guy I was just talking to?" And he's over there talking to someone else. Meanwhile, I'm talking to them as if I know what's going on. You know, there's a discount with this. Wait a minute. Where'd the guy? And we do that kind of stuff all the time. It's just little things that we would do because we worked together so well and so long that we knew, and we play these little games. Those are the kind of things I miss working retail, because most of my career has been very much white collar kind of stuff, working in offices and all that kind of stuff under fluorescent lights, dying slowly. So glad those days are over.
See, for me, I did work in a place that sold smokes. And oh yeah,
cigarettes?
So you always have inventory. There was always inventory, but it became a lot more exciting, especially up here. And I'm pretty sure Terry didn't experience this, but his neck of the woods did, because I don't know that you necessarily smoke, it wouldn't have affected you. But they covered up all the smokes. The idea was if you don't see it, it won't advertise to kids. They mysteriously don't know that those pods have cigarettes in them. But you have to count them in those pods and still kind of make it hidden to the public. It was a pain in the dick. Sometimes the pods were attached to the ceiling, so you were doing it like upright, looking up at the ceiling, going, "Okay, yeah, I can see 8 there. There's 12 there. There's So yeah, that's what I mean when you keep things in packages.
That must have been tough to work in a store that smelled like smoke. You come home smelling like smoke.
Well, we didn't smoke inside, so even back when I was legally allowed to smoke, you weren't allowed to smoke inside. They'd already kind of kicked people outside for that.
But doesn't the place actually smell of smoke, even if you're not actively smoking?
No, it smells of tobacco, but it doesn't smell of smoke.
All right.
No, you'd have to have smoke. Actually, does need to be lit. At best, the people who work in the store might linger of smoke. Like if they're smokers, they will stink of smoke, but the store itself will smell of tobacco. Tobacco is a weird thing. Like if you smoke, your clothing reeks of it, your upholstery reeks of it, your house reeks of it. You're gonna have a fun time getting rid of it. But without burning it, it just smells like cured leaves. It's actually got a nice smell, especially if you have cigars. Cigars smell really nice. It's when you light them up that people start bitching.
Yeah. I mean, my mom was a smoker all her life, and the house used to really stink. It doesn't smell as bad, but it's hard for me to tell because I'm always in here. So whenever somebody comes in, I say, "Does the house smell any different?" And most of them say, "Yeah, it smells different. It doesn't smell as bad from smoke." And I've done a lot of cleaning to try to clean the place up, but they still say it still doesn't smell right. So
yeah, it takes a long time to get it out, and I think it's because the smoke Like I think it does cure the wood. Like it's smoke.
Yeah. I got to imagine that when summer comes and I can open up all the doors and windows for extended periods of time, that'll help a lot.
Yeah, there's a reason I smoke outside. And even though I do that, I know my clothing still reeks. It still does. And it doesn't matter that I've cut down to 1 a day. And even then it's only on days that I work. That 1 a day is still enough to make my coat reek. And I can clean it and clean it and clean it. And it's a clean coat, but it still lingers of smoke.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I gotta quit.
Well, I do plan on replacing the carpeting in here because there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just worn. And it's very dark brown. It's not it makes the whole house kind of dark. So I definitely want to put like a gray in, you know, something that's new, but
brighten it up.
Yeah, brighten up. I want to get rid of all the it's hard for me to explain the living room, dining room, kitchen in the house, but the living room, dining room is dark paneling and brown floor. So it's very dark in here, and that darkness is kind of suffocating. I want to get rid of all the paneling and redo the carpet and bring in some lighter colors just to brighten the place up a little bit, you know?
Replacing carpet seems like such a hassle because like you've got to move all the furniture and it just seems like a massive headache. I'm just gonna keep the stuff I've got. It can wear into nothing.
Terry.
I'm a non-smoker, and this is all stuff that has smoke in it. So I'm anxious to get it out of here just because it smells. I'm sure it's retaining most of the smell in the house is in the carpet. Because you can wash the walls down and you can wash the carpet by the special vacuums that will allow you to do that. But I don't think you really ever get it out of the carpet because there's underneath the carpet is padding. You know, I think it just holds that smell. The only way to really get rid of it is to replace the carpeting. You can wash the walls down. The walls will lose that smell. And the ceiling, you can paint the ceiling and cover up that smell with paint. But and you can wash curtains and all that kind of stuff. But the one thing you can't really do anything about is the carpet. So I'm anxious to get it out of here. My brother wants to do wood floors. And I told him, if you want to do wood floors in here, then you have to cough up some money because I can do carpeting, but I can't do wood floors. It's too much money.
Yeah.
So
wood floors are nice, but it's like everything, it's still maintenance. But I would do wood floors too, but I wouldn't do the real ones. I would get the fake ones, at least up here. Just because unless you have the money for it, if you have the money for it, I would do it. But without, no, because it's still maintenance. It always, with every house that I've never owned my own, but with every house I've learned that, it all has to do with maintenance. The reason I would replace rugs up here is I find that the apartment building rugs are the lowest ones that they can get. It's the kind of stuff that you're going to replace every 5 to 6 years because you don't know who's been living there and because they don't retain the fluff. They're kind of shitty. And like ours, between my brother and I, it's permanently discolored. You know, even with shampooing, there's just not a lot we can do with it. And I'm like, well, I kind of want to limit where it is. I still want rug. Because it's a heat thing. I do believe it retains some heat, and I do believe it retains some soundproofing. So even where I am, just for the sake of not infringing on my neighbors, I like to have that much. But for some of the hallway, I don't want it just because for my brother, it's a sanitation thing. It is. Like his, you know what I mean? Like his feet, if he gets a little cut and it gets infected.
Yeah.
So I do want to limit the rug for that reason. But in his room, it's not a big deal. Like his room's actually pretty good. At best, he has to, like me, he has to be careful with cups with colorful water because it will end up on the floor.
Yeah. The living room is really dark brown. So even if you were to spell something on it, you really can't see it unless you don't clean it up at all. But the only other carpet that's an issue is the carpet that joins all of the other ancillary rooms to the living room. The 3 bedrooms and the bathroom, that carpet that takes care of all the that attached to all the rooms is like a light beige, and it's like it was still from the day they built this house. That's how old it is, and it's got every stain in the world, and they're apparent on that part of it. You don't see it unless you want to go to the bathroom, you want to go in the bedroom, and you have to cross that carpet, but it's just it really needs to be replaced because I've tried everything to get the stains out of there. It's just not happening. So we'll see.
You know what rugs I kind of miss were the tight knot ones. Like some of our schools used to have them, but they were like a tight knot rug because they were actually a lot easier to clean. Just because of the way it was knitted, it just lifted easier. Like if you used a shampooer or like a deep cleaning machine, yeah, it just they're meant to be like that. Like the school ones are meant to be like that because you've got little kids eating snacks on rugs. So
I have a throw rug in my bedroom for the high traffic part of the room, right near the entrance and to the end of the bed. That area, I have a throw rug there. That's tight knot. Yeah, but
they're nice.
It's not terribly big. I could fit it in the washing machine. So anyway,
but our conversation is so magical. We need magic carpet.
Yeah, I've been kind of stalling to get Jack to show up, but apparently he's too much of a snob to visit us.
He's too good for us.
He's too good for us. So I guess we should probably get out of here. You guys have anything else you want to go through before we get out of here?
No, I'm good.
No, I'm good.
All right, let's go ahead and get out of here. Oh. Well, thanks everybody as always for chatting with us tonight. Remember, we're trying to get a Rumble channel up and running, so if you have an account on Rumble, go ahead and give us a follow. Sorry for constantly reminding you. Eventually we'll live stream there, and it will be our backup channel, and it'll just be helping Minions grow. So as for YouTube, if you can't wait for the next Wednesday show, remember the Minions are live every evening, including weekends, with most shows starting around 11:30 p.m. Eastern, 7 days a week. Host and start times are linked in the description down below, along with our Rumble channel. And we will be back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. as usual. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll see you again next week. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.